Thank you everyone for joining. Good afternoon. So my name is Lottie Jones and I am in ESS's Nutrition and Wellbeing team. So today we are going to talk about sun awareness. So some of you may be aware, but May is actually Sun Awareness Month, and it's also Skin Cancer Awareness Month. So we will be focusing a bit on that in this session. And just a bit more about what we'll be going through. So what is sun exposure and why do we need to be thinking about staying safe? The dangers of burning and tanning, and also how to treat sunburn. We've got a section about skin cancer, so spotting the signs of skin cancer, and then how can we stay safe? So different types of sun cream, and also looking out for those who need to take extra care. And then lastly, just a little bit about vitamin D. What is it and why is it important? So just first to start, why do we need to be staying safe from the sun? So exposing yourself to the sun means exposure to ultraviolet radiation, and this can cause sunburn, skin aging, eye damage, and also skin cancer. And it's worth noting that exposure can also be in the form of sunbeds, so from artificial UV radiation as well. And you can still burn even if it's an overcast day and the sun is not shining super brightly. So what happens when we get sunburn? So sunburn is actually an inflammatory reaction to UV radiation on our skin's outer layers. So melanin is a pigment which gives your skin its colour and also protects, helps to protect against the sun's rays. And melanin works by darkening the skin, which is unprotected and exposed to the sun. And the amount of melanin produced is determined by our genetics. So this is why some people may tan and others may burn, because everyone is different. So both sunburn and also tanning of the skin are signs of cellular damage. And individuals with less melanin, prolonged sun exposure, so long periods of time in the sun, can cause skin cells to become red, swollen, and painful. And that is actually what we see as sunburn. Sunburn can range, so it can be quite mild, but it can also end up with the skin blistering, which is really painful. So we really want to be trying to avoid this. So as I've mentioned, burning of the skin is essentially damaging the DNA in your skin. So when you're tanning, this damages your skin cells and also speeds up visible signs of aging. This could be things like increased wrinkles, dark spots on the skin, and also the skin looking quite weathered. Sunburn, on the other hand, can cause redness and discomfort, and even though it can fade, the lasting damage does still remain. And prolonged sun exposure can also lead to heat exhaustion or heat stroke. One thing that is worth noting is sunburnt eyes, so photokeratitis, and this can occur when you have overexposure to UV rays. So this damages the cornea's outer layer, and that causes the eye to become inflamed and sore. So that's why it's really important to be wearing things like sunglasses, which have proper protection in them when we are out in the sun. So essentially, there is no such thing as a safe tan. So what about sunburn? So we've got 5 ways in which to treat sunburn. So the first is trying to cool it down. So if you're near water, can you have a quick dip to cool the skin down? And then make sure that you cover up the area of skin and also get out the sun as soon as possible. Alternatively, you can take a quick cool shower. Next is to get some moisturiser on the skin whilst it's damp. So using a gentle moisturiser, and repeat this over a few days to burnt or also peeling skin. So sometimes if we get really burnt, before it blisters, it may peel. So trying to moisturise that can help over the next few days after the burn has occurred. As I mentioned, sunburn is essentially inflammation of the skin. So what we want to be doing is you could try and decrease that inflammation. So one way you can do this is taking drugs such as ibuprofen or paracetamol at the first time of discomfort or inflammation. Aloe vera is also thought to potentially soothe mild burns as well. So sometimes you can get after sun moisturizers, which also have an aloe vera in them. So that's kind of getting points 2 and 3 done together there. And then also try and wear loose fitting, breathable clothing. So we don't want to wear anything that's really tight and compression against our skin. Next, it's staying hydrated. So we want to replace all the lost fluid. So when you're getting sunburn, this then also can draw some of the moisture out of your skin. One reason why we want to replace that moisture with the moisturizer, and also drinking lots of fluid, which you should be doing anyway if you're out on a hot day. Then lastly, you may need to see a doctor. So if you or your child potentially has severe blistering, has got a fever or chills, or is also woozy and confused, these are all signs and symptoms that you should seek medical assistance as soon as possible. And also, if you do have blisters from sunburn, try not to pop them, as this can lead to infection, which we want to avoid if possible. So next, I've just got a bit about understanding skin cancer. So there's actually 2 main types of skin cancer. You've got melanoma and non-melanoma. And the skin has several different roles. So the skin helps to protect the inside of our body from any damage. It also helps to regulate our body temperature. So this is where you find in hot temperatures you're sweating. So that's through the pores on your skin, and then also remove some waste products through sweat. The skin is also involved in making vitamin D, but I'll touch on that in a bit more detail towards the end of the presentation. And the skin is made up of 2 layers. So you can see from the picture on the slide, this kind of a cross section of the skin. So you've got the epidermis on the outside, and then you've got the dermis beneath. And it's the epidermis cells which are most at risk of sun damage. So these are the ones that are closest to the surface. And sun damage is actually the cause of most skin cancers. So then if we're just looking at the 2 types, so starting with melanoma. So melanoma is when abnormal cells in the skin start to grow and divide in an uncontrolled way. And it starts in skin cells called melanocytes. So you can see these are the darker red ones on the image on the screen. And these melanocytes make melanin, which I mentioned earlier is the pigment which makes the skin look darker. And melanoma cancer is the 5th most common cancer in the UK. So then we have non-melanoma. So non-melanoma skin cancer includes basal cell and also squamous cell. And basal cell cancer can develop in the basal cells. So this is the basal layer, and this is where the normal skin cells come from. And then the squamous cell cancer can come from the keratinocytes. So the top 2 layers of the skin are essentially made up of cells that have died, and they have been pushed up from the basal layer, and they're filled with keratin, which is made from the keratinocytes. So you can see the keratinocytes on the screen as the lighter coloured cells. And it's essentially a tough, waxy substance, and this can help to make the skin strong to protect the body. Non-melanoma cancer has a very high cure rate. Most people have minor surgery and then don't need any further treatment. And approximately 156,000 cases are diagnosed in the UK each year. And then just a statistic about melanoma skin cancer. So approximately 86% of cases in the UK are preventable. So hopefully from this session, you'll understand what we can do to be minimising our risk factors of developing that. So then we've just got some risk factors and common symptoms. So essentially how much time you spend outdoors and also your natural skin colour are both factors which affect your risk. Age is also a factor, with your increasing age increasing your risk factor for developing skin cancer. So things that you can look out for, so maybe an area of skin which doesn't heal within 4 weeks, looks unusual, could hurt, is itchy, might bleed, crust or scab for more than 4 weeks. And non-melanoma skin cancer tends to develop most often in skin which is exposed to the sun, that should say, sorry. And it can develop over a few years, or it can develop over a few months. So it's really important that we're checking our skin to notice any differences. So that was for non-melanoma skin cancer. And then melanoma skin cancer, there is a consistent like A, B, C, D, E system for checking. So if we start with A, anything that's asymmetrical, so a area of skin or a mole which perhaps has an uneven shape. You're then looking for border. So is the border of this mole irregular? Perhaps it has blurred or jagged edges. And then colour, so it would usually have an uneven colour and perhaps be more than one shade within the mole or area of skin. And then diameter, so they're usually more than 6 millimeters wide, and they can, however, be smaller if it's diagnosed early. And then the last one is evolving, so E for evolving, and this is anything that's always changing. Perhaps it's changing size or shape or colour. These are all things to look out for and get checked out if you are concerned. Melanoma can be harder to spot in people with brown or black skin, so the mole or abnormal skin might not show any of the A, B, C, D symptoms. It could still be symmetrical, and it might be under a finger or a toenail, or on the palm of a hand or sole of the foot. So those are just things to look out for. And roughly about once a month, we should all be checking our skin for different moles or marks, anything which is changing or perhaps new we've not noticed before. And it's really worth going to the doctor about any changes to a mole or patch of skin, or perhaps you've developed a new mole or a new mark. It's better to be safe and get all of these things checked out, no matter how unsure you may be. So those are just ways in which you can check your skin. So then how can we be making sure that we're staying safe in the sun? So the sun's rays are strongest around lunchtime. So we want to be trying to avoid time in the straight sun, roughly between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Covering up is a good way to also stay out of the sun. So perhaps you could be wearing a large brim sun hat if you are out in the sun. Another way is to put on sun cream at the beginning of the day, and then also keep topping this sun cream up throughout the day, especially if you are on holiday and you're going in and out of the sea or in and out of a swimming pool. It's really important to keep that sun cream topped up, even if it does say water resistant. Then next, I did mention earlier, but it's wearing sunglasses, and you want to make sure that they're polarized lenses, so they are protecting against the radiation. And then with the sun cream, ideally, you want to be trying to have SPF 30 and above, and also an SPF 30 and above lip balm too. These are normally sold in the same section as the sun cream. So you should be able to find those to prevent our lips getting burnt, because that would be very painful as well. And then also, if you can try and find some shade. I know on this slide, I've got a picture of a lovely beach with a recliner and an umbrella. Wouldn't it be lovely if we were all sat on the beach? But yeah, just try and find some shade when you're out and about. Maybe if you're going to the park and having a picnic, can you sit under a tree rather than sitting in pure shade? Or take things like umbrellas to make sure that you've got some shade there available. So those are just some tips on staying safe in the sun. It's worth noting that 10 minutes in the sun is enough to burn pale skin. So if you are someone with a light shade of skin, make sure that you are taking those precautionary measures to prevent getting sunburnt. Next, how can we pick the right sun cream? So there's loads of different sun creams available on the market, creams, sprays, lotions, but how do you know which one you want to have? So SPF, which stands for sun protection factor, is a measure of the amount of UVB radiation. So SPFs are rated from 2 up to 50 plus, and 50 plus offer offers the strongest protection of UVB. So you can see on the screen there, I've got two pictures of sun creams. One's an SPF 50 and one is an SPF 30. The other thing you want to look out for is the star rating for UVA. So this is the amount of protection you get against UVA radiation. And in the UK, we have a rating of up to 5 stars. So you can see that sun cream on the bottom right-hand corner has got a 5-star UVA rating. And then a UVA in a circle means that the protection is at least a third of the sun protection factor and meets EU regulations. So you can see that on the one that's in orange. Sun creams that contain both UVA and UVB protection are known as broad spectrum, and these are the ones that we want to be trying to use. And you can purchase them as creams, sprays, and also roll-ons. One thing that's worth noting is we should all be wearing SPF on our face all year round. Because like I said earlier, we can still get sunburn even if the sun isn't shining, so on a cloudy day. So that's why it's important to wear SPF on our face all year round. So then looking at who should take care. So those with pale, white or light brown skin, those who have freckles or red or fair hair, those you may know if you are a person who tends to burn rather than tan. It's really important that you take extra care when you're out in the sun. And people that have lots of mold as well should take care. And also people who are only exposed to intense sun occasionally. So perhaps you work inside as an office job and you only get exposed to sun when you go on holiday and then it's really intense heat. So you want to be careful there because you're not used to that heat. And again, that links into the next one if you're in a hot country where the sun is particularly intense. Also, those who have a history of skin cancer in the family should take extra care as well. So protecting your moles, you want to avoid getting sunburn and also use shade, also clothing and an SPF of 30 or more sun cream to protect yourself. So then what about protecting children? We've got summer holidays coming up soon, so we want to make sure that we're protecting children from the sun as well when they're out and about playing. You can get coloured sun creams now, so these can make it easier to see where you've rubbed it in. The one I've got on the screen was just a screenshot of a Nivea one, so you can see, I think that's like a pale green colour, so it makes it easier to make sure that you don't miss any patches on their skin. Consider hats and t-shirts if they're going to be playing in the water for a long period of time, especially if they burn easily, because the reflection of the rays off the water can actually mean that you're more likely to burn. So wearing t-shirts in the water is a great idea. Trying to stay out of the sun in the hottest part of the day. So mention that's from about 11 till 3. And also keeping babies and toddlers in the shade if possible. Also make sure to keep children hydrated because the heat of the sun, we want to make sure that their body temperature isn't getting overheated. So making sure they're drinking lots of water and fluids throughout the day is really important. One thing should note is I was talking about sunburn, and if you need to seek medical assistance, any sunburn in babies less than 1 year old should be treated as an emergency. So you should go and get help as soon as possible if that does happen. So then lastly, just going on to vitamin D. So vitamin D is essential for the maintenance of healthy bones, teeth and muscles. And the body is able to create vitamin D from direct sunlight on the skin when we're outdoors. We don't necessarily need to get it from the diet if we have enough exposure, but a lot of us actually don't have enough exposure, especially in the UK where we don't have very much sunlight for a lot of the year, or intense sunshine, I should say. And vitamin D deficiency has been linked with reduced immune response. So the process of how we transform vitamin D in our bodies, so the UVB rays from the sun penetrate the skin, and then the UV light reacts with enzymes in our skin cells. These enzymes then convert it into pre-vitamin D, which restructures it to a form called D3. And then another enzyme in our body turns this D3 into calcitriol, which is the active form of vitamin D, which is what our body then uses. So how much vitamin D do we need to be having? So food sources include things like oily fish. So good examples are trout and salmon, and then herrings and mackerel, also red meat and liver. Fortified foods, so some foods such as spreads, soy and dairy products, and also breakfast cereals are often fortified. Mushrooms, you can actually boost the content of vitamin D in supermarket mushrooms by leaving them in the sunlight. So that's a good idea to do if you buy mushrooms. Can you put them on the windowsill? And then also eggs. So eggs from hens allowed to roam outside supposedly have 3 to 4 times higher levels of vitamin D in the egg yolks than indoor hens. So if you're able, can you be buying kind of your more free range eggs? Lack of vitamin D can lead to rickets and bone pain, and also low vitamin D levels may exacerbate menstrual symptoms in women as well. So supplementation of 10 micrograms of vitamin D is recommended daily in the UK between September to April. As I mentioned, we don't get enough sunlight for our body to be able to make the amount that we need. And people with little or no sun exposure and under 5 should supplement daily all throughout the year. So that's how much we need to be getting. So then just a bit of a summary for some top tips for sun safety. So ideally we want to be trying to spend time in the shade between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. where the sun's rays are at their strongest. Try and cover up with suitable clothing and sunglasses, and reapplying sun cream regularly. Making sure that we're staying hydrated and not getting dehydrated. Make sure you take extra care with children in the sun, so keeping them out of the shade, keeping them hydrated, and also making sure they have their sun cream topped up or they wear loose clothing to protect their skin. And then also if you have any new moles or any changes in patches of skin, to make sure that you get those checked out by the doctor, to see if they need to be checked out. So that is everything I had to run through today. I'll come back to the main screen and see if we have got any questions. I will just put our wellness webinar feedback QR code up here, and I will drop the link into the chat so that if anyone is able to answer that, it's just really helpful. It gives us ideas if anyone has any feedback about specific topics that they'd like to receive, or if anyone has been forwarded the link, and we can add them directly to our mailing list. Also, just to make you aware of the team and how we can help you. So if you have any personal wellbeing queries, or you'd like to book any educational talks specific to your unit or site, we can come support with those, and also with health fairs or any specific committee meetings, we can come on site or carry out virtual options as well. And then we also have our wellness magazine. So we produce this seasonally throughout the year, and cover lots of different information on the Welder health and wellbeing agenda. So if you would like to receive that, do just drop us an email. Thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you'll have a good afternoon, and don't hesitate to contact with us if you do have any questions or queries at another time. So thank you all very much for this afternoon, and hopefully see you next month.